almost feels like satire. I was going to start off by asking you, John, is this the best division in the history of football? And of course, it's premature, but the numbers are there. The Vikings are the surprise of the NFL, and so is their division. Let's get into all that and this first big matchup against the Lions on Sunday without Aidan Hutchinson. We'll get into all the particulars here on the Viking Update Show. He's John Krawczynski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune. This is one of our football shows at talknorth.com. Good brother show is Jeff Diamond's Vikings and NFL Insider with the former Vikings general manager. This is more of the writers who have been covering the team for decades, talking about the team. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. TalkNorth.com wants to thank Aquarius Home Services. Also want to thank Natrium, Twill in the Dining Galleria, Crazy Fresh, and Chew Vision. And John, let's just get into it right away. The Vikings are surprisingly good, but so is the entire division.
It's an unbelievable division. You know, when we started out this season, we talked about it in training camp a lot. One of the reasons that I was a little pessimistic on the Vikings' chances this season and thought they were a 6 or 7 win team at best was I looked at the division and said, this is going to be a really tough division to compete in. There was, for years and years, the Vikings could always rely on getting multiple victories with the Lions and Bears, at least 2, but probably, more closer to 3 most years. And that I just did not see happening for them this season. Now, all of that is starting to come to fruition. That has been true. The division's unbelievable, but that includes the Vikings. That's why this division goes from a very good division to clearly the best division right now with how unexpectedly good the Vikings have been. And now you're seeing Caleb Williams come into his own a little bit, and the Lions look great. I mean, they outside of the Hutchinson injury, man, they are really coming into form, and the Packers are good as well. And so, I don't know what that means necessarily going down the stretch. What I do know is that I think there's only been one interdivisional matchup so far among all of the 4 teams, and that was when the Vikings beat the Packers. So there's going to be a lot of head-to-head. There's going to be a lot of kind of attrition, I think, from some of those matchups that are coming. But I think all of these teams are legitimately good. I don't see any of them just falling off the face of the map here down the last 10, 11 games.
No, it's stunning. And let's get right to it. The Lions might be the best team in football. If they're not, the Baltimore Ravens might be. Then you have the 2-time defending champion Chiefs. The Vikings have put themselves into that group by virtue of being 5-0, however they got there. And sometimes magical things happen in magical seasons. This one's a terrible one. Nobody wants to see Aidan Hutchinson hurt, but it is the kind of advantage for the Vikings that if they take advantage of their advantage, all of a sudden, they're pretty well clear of the pack in the division.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about what I think what is most meaningful for this, for the start for the Vikings is that they have gotten a little bit of a cushion, just a little bit, while they have been in a very difficult part of their schedule. We did look at the opening of this opening slate, and you're like, where is the breather outside of the Giants in week 1? And even that one, Jim, now, I thought that week 1 win over the Giants was, who cares? The Giants are absolutely terrible. They're not terrible. They're at least competent. I thought that they were going to be just an awful team. So that win even looks better. But all of their victories so far have been really qualify as really good wins, and they needed all of them because any sort of sliver of cushion you can provide yourself in a division where you are going to be going up against the Lions, the Packers, and even the Bears. I think. I have questions about the Bears in terms of how good they are just because the competition that they've faced. But once the Vikings start to get into a little bit softer part of their schedule, you hope that they just keep piling up those wins. But beating these good teams in tough games, even the Jets in London, I think qualifies as a quality win. Just so important for them when you know that there's not going to be a whole lot of breathing room with any of these teams down the stretch.
Yeah. The Lions are remarkably good on offense, and they can beat you so many different ways. They have two great backs with completely different styles. They have an all-star tight end who's fantastic. They have a true number one receiver. They also now have deep threats, including Jameson Williams. Excellent offensive line. Goff has been to a Super Bowl, and he was part of one of the best stories in the league last year, and he's probably playing better now than he ever has before. Incredibly efficient. The real question is, the Lions are not a great defensive team. They're physical, and they have some talent. They have linebackers, but they really needed Aiden Hutchinson to provide pass rush for things to fall into place for them. I'm not sure their defense holds up very well without him.
Yeah, no, when you look at like the remarkable pressure rates that he is generating, it's a huge loss. It's a huge loss for them. I think that one thing that I will give them the benefit of the doubt on, which is crazy to say, but hey, I think the Lions are earning the benefit of the doubt because I think they're really well coached. I think that they have a very good infrastructure in place in the front office as well. So there's a possibility that they could even go out and try and trade for somebody to help. I mean, it's not going to be Aiden Hutchinson, but they can somehow bolster, their reserves, and then they will probably just coach up whoever is stepping in there, and it will give them a chance to stay in it. But when you lose a player of his caliber at the one of the glamour positions in the sport, and on a defense that is, as you said, kind of shaky at the other levels, how they recover from that and how they account for that is going to play a huge factor in their ability to sort of withstand this. Because I agree with you, Jim, like even though the Vikings are 5-0 and the Lions are 4-1, just with the way that the Lions are playing, I think that they are the best team in football. Like I think I picked them to go to the Super Bowl before the season started, and I haven't come off of that. We'll see how they look without Hutchinson, but in this run up in these 5 games and what they've been able to do and what they did to Dallas this past weekend, they look frightening. And so this game on Sunday is going to be awesome just to see two really good teams go at it and, even get an even better idea of exactly where the Vikings stand in this whole thing.
So big question. This is a classic talk radio question. It's probably not meaningful. It's just fun to kick around. At this moment, knowing that we know that Hutchinson's out for the season, which of the 3 competitors do you fear the most if you're the Vikings right now?
I still think it's the Lions. I do. I just think that the way that they're playing, with all of their weapons, with everything that they have going for them, I think I'm going there. The Packers, I'm just not quite as sold on. I mean, they're good and they seem to be pulling everything together. Jordan Love has come out of his injury now and is starting to find his groove again, and what they did to Arizona was impressive. But I just think that Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, like all of these guys that they have to throw at you offensively, I think it's the scariest proposition in this division. The Bears defense is really good, and Caleb is coming around. The Packers are pretty well balanced, but I just think I look at what is the one thing that scares me the most, and it's that Lions offense and what they can do to you.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see if the Packers have a really good young roster. Love has gotten back off of his injury and started shaking off the rust. I can see the Packers making a move, but right now you probably just have to say the Lions. I think that's right. All right, let's get into more on the actual Minnesota Vikings here. But first, I want to tell you about Crazy Fresh. I've been eating all manner of their variety of foods lately. Really enjoying the dips, the taco dip trays, the chip dips, the salsas, the guacamole, which has some kick to it. It's really good. Sometimes I have their protein salads as basically a full meal that all I have to do is take the lid off of. Sometimes I have their fresh fruits. Sometimes I have their fresh vegetables. Check out Crazy Fresh. You can find it in a grocery store near you, but the easiest way to do it is do what I do and just order it, have it show up on your doorstep, and it's all ready. You don't have to slice. You're not going to leave excess in your fridge. I also want to let you know that Crazy Fresh had earlier this season announced that they had their first gold ticket sweepstakes winner. When you buy Crazy Fresh, you get a gold ticket that's eligible for prizes. The first winner went to Lambeau Field for the Vikings-Packers game. They've just acquired the second gold ticket winner, and there are still more tickets out there. They want to let you know that through me. But the important thing here, the reason we're talking about them, besides the awards, is just that it's just great food. It's great. It's healthy. It's fresh. You can get meals, snacks, juices, fresh squeezed juices that are fantastic. We've had them at our staff meetings at Talk North, and everybody looks forward to them when we have them because it's not only good, it's really actually healthy. And who can't have enough healthy food? So check out Crazy Fresh. We do appreciate it. Also want to let you know, I've been telling you about Natreum, Natreum.com. Again, you can go to their stores. The thing I like about the stores is they're really beautifully appointed, clean, amazing array of products. The sales associates are very knowledgeable, very helpful because there are so many products there. You do need some guidance as to what's going to work for you, what you would prefer. But I'm going to talk today just about a very specific one of their products that I bought at my local Wildflower, which is an offshoot of Natreum. Look for either a Natreum store or a Wildflower store. There'll be one near you. There are two right near me. The Goodnight Moon gummies. And on the label, it says rest, restore, sleep. And sometimes I take stuff because I have restless legs. Sometimes I take stuff because my legs ache at night. Sometimes I will take, a Benadryl or something to help me sleep. This is actually serving the purpose of all those things at once. Calms my legs down, allows me to sleep soundly. I feel better the next day. I don't have that mid-afternoon energy crash in the afternoon because I got a good night's sleep. Check out the Goodnight Moon. But if Goodnight Moon isn't specifically perfect for you, they'll help you find one of the many alternatives that might be just geared a little bit more to what you want. All right, back to the Vikings here. Unfortunately, we don't know at this moment whether Aaron Jones is going to play this week. Do you think they can adapt to not having Aaron Jones in the lineup and be the offense they were the first 4 weeks of the season? Because when he left against the Jets, they went right downhill.
Yeah, it's funny how we're saying that, Jim, because, we went from last year where I think that the Vikings vastly underestimated the importance of a running game to now it becoming such a big part of what they're doing. And I don't know if they can. What I would say is I do like their chances coming off of a bye week, having a little extra time to kind of look into what they can do better without Aaron Jones, what works best for Ty Chandler, and maybe just finding some extra areas where that they can adjust to and shore up and get better at, because it is an important thing. And I think that even if Jones is back this week, they should have spent a good portion of the bye week looking at that, because given his injury history, you have to be prepared should that happen again down the stretch here. And so what do they have to do differently with Ty Chandler back there versus Aaron Jones to get more explosion, to get to make things easier on Sam Darnold? And it's a big thing. I mean, I do think that his absence against the Jets did contribute quite a bit to the sluggishness that we saw in this offense. And maybe Darnold having a week to clear his head a little bit. Maybe, I think Darnold was a little banged up too, and he'll be a little healthier coming out of it. And so that could help him as well. But I do have real concerns about an Aaron Jones-less Vikings offense and what that really does look like. I think they have some major work to do there, if he can't play.
Yeah, I think Chandler is a good back, but he's not the kind of good back that makes everybody around him better. He just can get yards when they're there, and he has a little wiggle and he finishes runs hard. But Aaron Jones he's one of those magical players who just makes the offensive line better, makes the quarterback better. So it's going to be fascinating to see because, let's get back to this. Let's get back to the subject of running backs in the NFL. I think it was easy for everyone to say that running backs don't matter for a while there when you saw the 49ers going to the Super Bowl with Raheem Mostert, as their lead back. But running backs do matter. You just don't want to overpay them to a point where they're still on your roster when they're making a lot of money and they're not productive anymore because they do fall off faster. But you look at what everybody did in the league. Everybody wants the good running back, And this is leaving Christian McCaffrey out. He's in a league of his own, and the 49ers were in a unique situation where they had so many good players, so many positions, and they had salary cap space. They could make that happen. That's the outlier. What you're seeing from almost every other team is you want to find a way to get the right back for your system in and just not overpay him.
Yeah, and I do think, Jim, it does seem like the sort of landscape of offense has changed a bit in the NFL this year.
Yep.
We are not seeing quarterbacks just dominate through the air the way that we are used to seeing it in recent vintage. Why exactly? I don't really know, but Mahomes is having an off year. We're seeing like Jaden Daniels has been great and Lamar has been great, and Josh Allen, there are a few, but like we are seeing sort of a different sort of offensive output. And so maybe defenses have caught up a little bit, maybe that they have figured a few things out with the air raid offenses of this league. And now we are going to have to see offensive coordinators and head coaches like Kevin O'Connell zag again and go back to using the run as more than just a get me over pitch, and really as a featured part of the offense, because it had become so pass heavy, so air dominant, and we just have not seen that same, kind of way that offenses are succeeding this season. And whether that's an anomaly or not, it has been interesting to me. And so even more important that the Vikings did go out and sign Aaron Jones and address that. And now they got to keep him healthy, because I just think that that's a very important part of this whole process. That the dynamics or the parameters around offense seems to have changed this year, and the Vikings were well suited to that, and they're going to have to continue to be that way, because it just doesn't seem like the air raid stuff is quite as in vogue as it was even 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, I've thought about that. I want to get to it. First, though, I want to tell you about Twill in the Edina Galleria. They had their Peter Millar Trunk Show last weekend. If we didn't get that information to you early enough, I apologize. But that's why you should go to twillmn.com and sign up for their email updates. They don't send many out. They will not spam you. They're just going to tell you when they have an event like the Peter Millar Trunk Show, where they have discounts and gifts. And it's really good time to go in and check out what they have. It's Twill by Scott Dayton in the Edina Galleria. Beautiful shop and a beautiful place to shop. It's a great place to walk around during the winter when it's cold out. There are great restaurants in there. There's a really good Barnes & Noble. My wife loves shopping there, but the highlight for me is going into Twill. Very knowledgeable people, very low key, friendly, there to help, but you can browse as much as you want. And it's not a big department store. You walk in and you can find everything very quickly. I still tell the story that I needed a new pair of jeans. I walked in, I said, I thought I needed a, XX size. And they said, no, you need this. And they brought me a pair and they fit perfectly. And I was out of there in like 5 minutes. That's my experience. And now that, it's getting cooler out. Now I'm breaking out all of my sweatshirt and sweater type stuff that I've gotten at Twill that keeps me comfortable in the fall and the winter. I'll tell you more about those things next week. For now, just go to twillmn.com, check out what they have. Also want to let you know about True Vision Institute, and John's going to tell us more about that.
Yeah, True Vision Institute in Bloomington. Go to truevision.com to set up your consultation. They will take you through a very thorough, very educational process to check your eyes, to see what is right for you. For me, I got LASIK surgery at True Vision, and it's been one of the best decisions I've made in ages. Everything is easier now without glasses and contacts. I don't have to keep going back in every year or two for new prescriptions, trying to stay up with the latest fashion trends with glasses, messing with my contacts when I'm swimming or with the kids or doing things like that. Life is so much more convenient. I love to run. I'm on a treadmill all the time, and I don't have to push my glasses up on my nose when my face gets sweaty anymore. I'm just running unencumbered. It's so great. And you go to truevision.com, set up the consultation, go in. The people there are the warmest, most welcoming, most fun to be around people. They're super excited and enthusiastic for you as you look at your options. And then Dr. Chu himself is incredible in terms of making you feel comfortable with the surgery, should you get the LASIK surgery, and getting you through from the moment you start till literally like the 5 minutes it takes to get the procedure done, and then get recovered, start seeing clearly without any glasses or contacts. It's just the greatest. So go to chuvision.com and set up your consultation. Tell them the John Krawczynski Show sent you, and you, like me, will be wondering why you didn't do it a decade ago.
You talked about the fact that more and more teams are buying into the fact you need a really good running game. And it just takes me back to all my years as an NFL beat writer, where I would spend a lot of time, either watching film with assistant coaches or just talking to assistant coaches one-on-one. And, what they'd always say is no offense survives multiple off seasons. And what they meant was, if an offense really works, then you're going to have 32 defensive coordinators trying to figure out how to stop those specific offenses for months and months in the offseason. They're going to gear their personnel, they're going to gear their strategies to stopping that offense, and that is going to catch up to them. And the offense at some point is going to adapt. But I just think that's what we've seen. We've seen defenses become much better at pressuring quarterbacks, at hitting receivers, at limiting big plays. And the natural reaction to that is the offense is going to say, okay, if you're going to have smaller players, faster players, then we might as well just line up and run it right over you. And, the Vikings have actually been able to do some of that.
Yeah. And, I've been a little bit surprised, because at some point I just thought, look, like all of the rules changes, like everything has been so geared toward the offense. It almost makes it impossible for a defense to account for that, the NFL is making sure that we're going to have super high scoring games because fans love touchdowns and big passes and all of those things. And that's the way that they're going to make sure it happens. But what we have seen is really smart defensive coordinators start to slowly, rather than just hang their heads and say, we can't do it, figure things out. And, whether it's in the coverage on the back end, whether it is kind of being more physical, whatever it was, is like, look, we have to figure out a way to design defenses to stop some of this, or else it's just, it's going to be over for us. And so, the players are taking a lot of pride in it, and they have been able to swing the pendulum back in their favor a little bit. And I think you're right, Jim, in terms of, we have seen a lot more defenses emphasize speed, whether it's at linebacker or in the secondary, and even up front. I mean, you do see, you see some big nose tackles and stuff, but you don't see Kevin and Pat Williams anymore. You don't see that kind of size and strength a lot. And on the edges, it's speed rushers. It's Micah Parsons at 240 pounds or whatever, or however he is. And so it seems like you can combat that a little bit with size and physicality, and saying, all right, we are just going to out-tough you. I was watching the Bills and the Jets last night, and the Bills started the game. They ran the ball, must have been like 8 or 9 times in a row, and got right down to the goal line. And then Josh Allen pushed in for a touchdown. I mean, and there's nothing the Jets could do about that. It was big. It was physical. That was the way to go. And so I do think that some of the defenses are now having a harder time swinging back to, okay, now we have to have the girth and the strength and the nastiness up front to combat this. Whereas we had been sleeker, and we'd been designed to run all over the field and chase these guys around, these running quarterbacks and stuff. And so here's another situation where now defenses are going to probably have to adjust again if this trend continues that way.
Yeah, and again, going back to a lot of my conversations with different offensive coordinators over the years, the general theme was, you don't have to run the ball all the time, but you have to be able to run the ball in situations, closing out games. And the other thing they always talk about is, listen, sometimes a run for a yard or 2 or 3 might look like a failed play, but it can actually set up other things you're trying to do. It can soften up a defense. It can wear down defense. And so one of the other failures of the pure pass mentality is if your offensive line spends the entire game shuffling backwards, they're not going to be the kind of players who can just knock somebody on their butt when you really need a tough yard on 3rd and 1.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, and I also think that one of the things that goes with that strategy is football inherently is just a physical, tough game. And these guys want to get in the mud and knock heads and exert their strength over someone else's. And so when you do that with your offensive line, when you do that kind of with your running back group, it does have a different mentality that happens with your offense in general. It sets a team up to be a little bit more versatile because there's going to be bad weather games. There's going to be cold games, even with all the domes and stuff that are around these days. There's still going to be times where you have to figure it out and you can't throw the ball 45 times to win the game. And so having that toughness kind of built up over the course of a season and getting your guys to think that way, I think is advantageous for a group. And so there's probably some sort of nostalgia in it, but there's also some comfort in it, I think, because at their core, these guys just want to line up and say, I'm tougher than you. We're going to show you. And when you employ that type of aggression that way, I think it trickles down to your players in a meaningful way.
Yep. Good stuff, John. Appreciate it. Also check out the John Krawczynski show, and also on the Timberwolves. Also check out Jeff Diamond's Vikings NFL Insider. Just go to talknorth.com. There'll be shows there you like, whether it's Randy Shaver's new high school football show, where he's getting a lot of exclusive content on the statewide teams. Don Mitchell's interview show. We've had Chris Hawkey on. He was fantastic. We had Paul Allen on this summer. I highly recommend going back and listening to that one. But check it out. We got lots of good stuff. If you like the show, please subscribe. For today, for John Krawczynski and TalkNorth.com, I'm Jim Souhan. Thanks for listening.